Alrighty, getting things set up for my weekly live. All right, looks like I'm up on both YouTube and TikTok. How y'all doing? It's Dan, men need to be heard. Hope you're having a great week. I've had a pretty good one, busy one. For me, things have gotten a little crazy in a good way. Um, so, for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Dan. As I said, I run this channel to talk about the issues that men and boys face in today's society, and bring awareness to them, right? And one of the things that I like to do is educate people on the realities that we're dealing with. I like to have some discussions on it, and that's kind of the goal for today, right? My goal today. Hey, Leon, how you doing? Leon Hughes said, "How's my day night?" Well, it is late afternoon here where I am on the east coast of the U.S., and it's been a wonderful day for me. And I'll jump into the chats. So if you're first time ever watching me, what I do ask, because it's kind of fun for me and kind of fun for everyone, is introduce yourself. Jump on in, join the conversation, introduce yourself, let us know where you're from. You can give us your country, you can give us your city, whatever you're comfortable with. One of the things that I am fascinated by is and I talk about this every single week when I do a live, and I am live from 4 to 5:30 Eastern US every Wednesday. But one of the things that fascinates me is how people from all over the world jump in and we communicate, both on YouTube and on TikTok. It's an amazing thing to me, and it's one of the good things. So Black Weapon, I'm from South Africa. You educate me lots. The way you said that made me myself. Dudson, Apex, North Carolina. My friend, we are not that far from each other. So today I want to talk about a somewhat serious topic and kind of let you guys in on some things that I've been doing. So as I said, I'm an advocate on behalf of men and boys, and I talk about the issues they face. And earlier this month, as we're closing out September, as I'm filming this, I was really getting into talking about some of the issues with education in boys. And along those lines, I had a couple politicians reach out to me that I don't know how they heard about me. And one is not too far from where I am. I'm in North Carolina. They're in my state. And another is in another part of the country. But apparently I struck a chord somehow. So I've been having dialogues with them, because one of the issues that I think is going on is that more and more people are understanding just how bad it is for boys in the educational system. Primarily K-12 to start, right? So that would be kindergarten to graduation from high school. And I've been having a lot of dialogue, both with the politicians that I talked to and some others about it. And I have to tell you, it's made me hopeful, because to be honest with you, I haven't heard much talk about it. Now, one of my heroes, and I've talked about this before, is a gentleman named Warren Farrell. If you've never heard of Warren Farrell, it's Dr. Warren Farrell. He's written a lot of books. The number one book I've ever read in my life, as far as stuff like this, is called The Myth of Male Power Privilege. All right. That was a life-changing book for me. But there's another one that's out there, and I actually have my copy of it right here, and I want to show it real quick. And I'm not pimping his book, but it's called The Boy Crisis. All right. This came out 6-7 years ago, and that book, when I read it, and mind you, I've been involved in this and advocating for men and boys for 25-ish years, 27 years actually. And when I read that book, it blew my mind. And I was rereading it earlier this month, and it's kind of what drove my dialogues and all this. And again, I'm reemphasizing that we as a society, and by the way, for those of you not in the U.S., I've heard from many other countries, they're seeing the same thing. Maybe not to the same level as the U.S., but I've heard from other people in the UK, people in various parts of Europe, people in Australia saying they're seeing somewhat similar where boys are lagging behind, lagging behind girls. And there's very little talk out there about it. And that's where I'm going to kind of go with overall today, not just education, but as I titled this, it's the state of men and boys in 2023. And let me put this caveat out, and I am watching the comments. I will jump in on those in a moment, but I just want to kind of talk about this briefly. I don't want this to be female bashing, women bashing at all. That's not the goal of this, all right? And, it's okay for us to point out some things, but it's not about bashing them. My viewpoint is this, and this is the argument I have with feminists, is they see addressing boys' issues as a zero-sum game in their mindset. And I've had multiple conversations with them. And you'll hear it, by the way, I worked a couple of years in K-12. You'll hear it within there, too, is, well, if we do put some focus on the boys, we're going to take away from the girls. No, that's not what the goal is. We don't want to take one program away from the girls. We don't want to take one dime or dollar away from any program for the girls. We want to keep the status quo on that and focus on whatever they need to focus on. But we're not doing anything for the boys right now. And you're seeing boys are dropping out of school at ever-increasing rates. When they are graduating, their grades are much lower, and there's various reasons for that. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty as like, why are boys' grades lower? Well, some of it people say is because teachers grade boys tougher. There's truth to that. That's not what I'm talking about. I want to talk about it up here on the upper level, is how do we get society? How do we get the public? How do we get the politicians? How do we get all of us to say, you know what? We need to start focusing on boys. Along those lines, not just boys in education, I want to talk about other issues that men are dealing with, right? The unaliving rate is through the roof right now. Male homelessness skyrocketing. These are all issues that are up here. And again, today I'm not really looking to dive into the nitty gritty on these, but more about how do we as men, how do we as the women who support men, how do we get that dialogue moving forward? Because this is where we're at, right? I talked about the boys' issues. If you don't think the unaliving issue, people aren't aware of it, politicians are, but it's backburnered, okay? They don't view it as that important because it squeaky wheel gets the grease. You'll often hear that phrase. It's not a squeaky wheel. They hear about it and they're like, okay, oh, wait a minute, I got to deal with this, right? So what I want to do is get your guys' thoughts on that from across the world, all right? I'm speaking primarily on the U.S. right now, but the truth of the matter is, I said a little while ago, this is worldwide we're seeing this, all right? Many other countries. So jump in. Let me know what you think. What do you see as the biggest issues? Because to me, to use Warren's book, The Boy Crisis, I would put right up there. Things like unaliving, homelessness, right up there, right? Family court reform is another big one. How do we make dads valued in a nutshell, right? How do we do that? Because, as I said, I've been doing this for 27 years. Are we further along? Yes, we are. Are we that much further along? Not really, if I'm being honest with you, right? So I want to get your opinion, your thoughts, your feelings on this. Help me out, because what my ultimate goal with all this is to, one, start dialoguing with some politicians, morph my podcast a little bit here and there to kind of address some of these issues. I had a gentleman that came on the podcast that went up last Sunday, Sean Coleman, who's from the Global Initiative for Boys and Men. This is what's driving this live right now, is go watch that podcast, because we went through 6 different things that are major issues for men and boys in today's society. Now, we only had a couple hours, so we couldn't really dive into them much. But I want to kind of play off that and get your viewpoints, because the ones that we talked on that podcast, basically fatherlessness was a big one, how men are lagging behind in careers, jobs, how the media and public portray men, family court, obviously. There's a bunch of things, but I want to hear your viewpoints, right? And again, I don't want this to be women bashing or female bashing. That achieves nothing. Plus, it'll get me banned, okay? But that's not the reason I want. I want to talk about men today. As men and as women who support men, what do you think? Let me rephrase that. Where do you think the emphasis should be? Because the other side of it is there's only so much we can do right now, right? It's a huge elephant. We got to take small bites to eat the thing. Where do you think? So if you were to say to me, Dan, these are the top 2 or 3 things I think you should focus on. That's what I want to hear from you guys. Because what I think, education for boys, family court reform, fatherlessness, those 3 are my top 3 in no order. 1A, 1B, right? But maybe you have a different idea, and I'm curious to hear what you think on that, all right? Let me just jump over to some of the comments. Hey, if you're on YouTube, you'll see me looking to the left. I have my YouTube chat over there. Jump in, introduce yourself. If you're on TikTok, that's in the lower section. I really wish I could put them all in one. And let me know what you think. And as I said earlier, share where you're from, because I just love that. By the way, thank you for Mark for sending me the rose, and Abdul Salam for sending me the heart me. I appreciate it. Thank you. I do appreciate the support. One of the things, by the way, quick side note, and I'm going to shill a little bit if you don't let me. One of the things I talked about this past weekend, and it became a thing, I didn't mean it to, was how we as a society need to start supporting those fighting for men, right? And I didn't mean it about myself per se, but I had several people that gave me some support, and I truly appreciate it. And I want to take a moment to thank all of you who did support me, right? For me to do the stuff I do, it does cost some money. And I'm putting in a couple $100s of my own money a month, and I don't mind doing that, but I'm not going to lie, a little help wouldn't hurt. And I'll give you another thing that I did not talk about in the videos. I've been offered a couple of different speaking engagements to speak to some pretty important people to come out and talk about exactly what I'm talking about with you guys. But they want me to pay my own way, right? So, for me to go to the one, between the flight and the hotel room and all that, it's going to be like $1,500. I don't have $1,500 lying around. And I'm not saying this to get donations or anything, okay? What I'm saying is, for someone like myself or some of the fathers groups or men's groups out there, I've been talking about veteran fathers a lot lately. For us to do things to help, we need support. And some of it is financial, all right? Enough said on that, because I don't want to come across as somebody shilling for money, all right? Let me kind of go through the comments. As I said, let me know where you're from. Leon, I'll scroll down. I want to know what made you yourself. Hey, Mike, founder of Falsely Accused Network based in Manchester. I think I follow you on Twitter. By the way, side note, if you ain't following me on Twitter, I'm never going to call it X. You need to, because I say a lot of stuff there that I can't possibly say on these channels, okay? I am very vocal over there. So you're missing out on some really good stuff. But yeah, I do follow you, Mike. I know I do. So we need to have a chat, because I want to talk about you coming on the podcast, talk about the issues you're talking about. In fact, my podcast coming up is Sean Parker, who is part of the False Allegations Watch. He watches and comments on what the media's coverage of false allegations is. That's this upcoming Sunday on the podcast. So it's a big issue for me, because I do, as you know, if you followed me last week, I was all over that. Jacob said, love the channel and the content. Thank you, Jacob. I'm glad to hear that I've helped you. That right here, that hits home with me. Sean from Canada, my buddy. How are you, my friend? I see you all the time, and I love that you follow me on the lives every week. Sean Harvey says, stay strong. I'm trying. All right, Black Weapon. This is happening everywhere, even in SA, South Africa. And that's what I'm hearing, right? That's why I want to talk about these issues and get your feedback, your viewpoint, because it's not a U.S. problem. It's not a U.K. problem. It's not an Aussie problem. I'm hearing it worldwide. You're really starting to hear about things in India, and some of the stuff that I'm hearing out of India is blowing my mind. Oh my God, I feel so sorry for the men over there right now. I mean, I don't want to get into it too deep here, but it's bad. Like what laws they're looking to pass and so forth. And if it happens in India, they're going to use that as a template elsewhere. Is one thing I always talk about is the U.S. is kind of the leader on family law. Whatever happens in the U.S., generally shortly thereafter, the UK, Australia, New Zealand will follow suit, and then the other countries follow suit. That's why I work so hard on that. Bernie said, make women register for the draft like men. I've talked about this before. I agree, right? I do think that both men and women should register for selective service. Now, if you want to argue with me that no one should have to register, we can have a discussion on that, but it should be equal. There should not be a disparity based on gender. Women are every bit as capable as men of serving in the military. Now, again, you could quibble on combat and all that, okay, but I have a very good friend who was in the military. He's a co-host on my radio show with me. He was a colonel in the Army. He will tell you, for every man fighting on the front lines, there are 9 to 10 doing logistics, getting him the food, the water, the ammunition, and all that. There's no reason women can't do those jobs. You don't want them fighting in combat. Okay, we can have that discussion, but women are capable of driving trucks and flying planes and all that stuff. Yes, it should be equal. That's all I'm going to say on that because I don't want to go too far on it. Vertical specialist, the other way is don't marry or don't have kids. Unfortunately, my friend, I agree with you right now. A good topic on that is, where are we at with marriage, right? Again, state of men and boys in 2023. I am very pro-marriage, all right? Very pro-marriage. But I cannot in good conscience tell younger guys now, yeah, go get married. I can't. When you do an assessment, a risk versus reward, and I did a video on this, you have a better chance putting everything you own and your kids on red or black and roulette than succeeding in marriage. You got better odds of winning at the roulette wheel. Divorce is now at about 55%. Latest numbers coming out. And men get devastated in divorce. So, I mean, that's the reality. I wish it were different. I truly do, because I do think as a society we're better off. What are some of the issues, though, guys? Talk to me about the issues that you see. It may be issues you're facing. It may be issues your sons are facing. This is what I want to hear about. I want to hear from you guys. Stop Following said, I think the game is to keep women and men separated in battle, divide, and rule. I agree with you. I do think that is what's going on, a large part of it. Whether you want to call it a conspiracy theory, it's the government, it's aliens, as someone said. That one did make me laugh when I saw that video, which was on Instagram, I believe. But it's divide and conquer, right? You're seeing it along racial lines, and I don't want to get into that, but you're seeing it along the battle of the sexes, right? Divide men and women, destroy the nuclear family, and here we are. Right? Effectively, the nuclear family has been. When you have, I've linked the numbers right around 42% of families are intact, meaning mom, dad, kids. That's it. Married families. It used to be 70, 80%. And 50 years ago, look where we are now. It's not good. So Stop Following says, so we can talk to the politicians, but they want both of us to work full time and have, well, yeah, I'm not going to say the word. I agree with you. And again, talking to the politicians, and you're going to get mad at me for saying this, but some of them are just effing clueless. They don't get it. One of the conversations I had a couple days ago with one of the politicians I referenced earlier, specifically on marriage, it's like, why would you tell men not to get married? What are you, crazy? And then I laid it out for him, and he went, oh. And I went, I understand you didn't know that. How did you not know? And I wasn't being mean to him, right? I was like, dude, how do you not know? Oh, it's not really something we talk about. Exactly. That's my point, right? Is it's not talk. We talk about it here. You see it on social media. Politicians aren't on social media. I hate to tell you. People think, all the time I see this. People think that politicians run their Facebook pages or their Twitters, or there are some, right? But the majority of them, it's interns running them. It's interns putting that up. Sometimes they're told what to say by the politician, but in general, the politician ain't looking at it, right? So they don't see, they certainly ain't reading what you're writing, right? So if you put a post up, I've talked about this a few years back. If you put a post up on Facebook, whatever your opinion is on whatever topic that a politician's out there on, the odds of that politician reading your specific comment, unless it hits home to the intern or whoever's running the page, are nil, zero, zilch. One, they don't have the time to spend on social media. And two, they don't care, to be honest with you, right? They're going to kill me. Some of them, I know they're going to kill me for saying that. That's what they hire people for. Now, occasionally something will hit home and the aide will go, hey, I need to bring this to your attention, right? Or it'll go from the intern to generally chief of staff or someone in the politician's office and then up to the politician. Again, there are exceptions. These are not hard and fast rules, but that's the way it works. So you're right. Politicians aren't aware of this stuff. But the reality is, though, once you start making them aware, you can get their attention, which talks about another thing I want to talk about. If we want to change things for men and boys, we need to become more vocal. We need to speak as one voice. Pick up the phone, call your congressman, call your state senator or representative and say, I would like 15 minutes of your time. I would like to come into your office and have a conversation with you about my situation. Let's say it's a family court issue. It could be anything you want to talk, homeless, whatever issue is, right? Odds are you're going to meet with an aide. And honestly, I've been lobbying for 20 whatever years. You're better off more often than not meeting with a good aide than you are the politician. The chief of staff, you get to them, that's who runs the politician. That's the power. I know people don't believe that, but trust me. The chief of staff is the one who controls access to the politician and has a ton of sway. And I worked this in New York when I was lobbying for shared parenting, right? One of the representatives who ultimately became the head of the Republican minority in the legislature, I became really good friends with his chief of staff. And his name was Mike, and Mike and I had dialogue all the time, and it helped. It helped us move the bill forward. That's how you do it. I'm not defending politicians here. I'm blaming them, but if we want to change things, we can't take the attitude that, well, they're going to defeat us. There's no point in doing it. That's exactly what they're counting on, right? When you speak up, when you talk about your issues, and if you do go in and meet with someone, one, don't go in there with a ton of paper and think you're going to get anywhere. You're not. They ain't going to read it. Okay? They'll tell you you can leave it with me and it'll go right in the trash. Just telling you the truth. But if you go in there and say, you know what, my name's Dan. I just wanted to have a talk with you about, let's say, shared parenting, right? But I want to tell you my story and why I support it. I went through a divorce. My ex-wife got custody of the kids and stopped me from seeing my kids. And just tell your story. And be honest and let the emotions out. That's how you get change. Just saying. All right. United Compliance. Well, first, thank you for the rose. I see that. And then you said, I got my you-know-what together. You guys are using the S word an awful lot. I'm not going to repeat it because I don't want to get in trouble on either one of them. And Mark, thank you for the rose. Donald Harris said, how I think of is quit sending money to Ukraine. I will possibly support and stand with Russia. That's a good point. And I'm not making commentary on that war. Ballpark, we've sent $135 billion to Ukraine. Whatever you think about that. For, against, neutral, I'm neutral. I don't care about that. Here's the question you need to ask your representative. Why is it you can send $100 billion to help Ukraine, but you can't find $50 million, a drop in the bucket compared to that, to open a domestic violence shelter in every state? One shelter, 4 men, $1 million per shelter. Because the number one thing they will tell you at the federal and state level is there's no money in the budget to do that. I've heard it hundreds of times. Yet the federal government sent in $130 billion, right? $50 million is pocket change. You don't even need that much, to be honest with you. That would actually be overkill. But it gets the ball rolling. Why can't we address having a place for men who are victims of domestic violence to go? And don't tell me the current shelters do it, because they don't. I've worked in them, okay? There are some that do. The majority of them, if a man is being abused and needs to leave the house, he'll be given a 3 or 4 day voucher to a local flea bag motel. Women have rooms. And if you don't believe me, call your local domestic violence shelter and say to them, I would like to know how many beds you have for men. One, if they start ducking the question, the answer is 0. They may tell you, well, we have a couple, and then ask them, how many do you have for women? And again, we don't want to take one thing away from the women. None, 0, zilch. But why can't we have some beds for the men? That's all I'm saying, right? So when you talk about, like Donald mentioned, we're sending all this money to Ukraine. My God, a fraction of that. It's not going to solve domestic violence. I'm not saying that, but it could help literally thousands of men overnight. Why are we not addressing it? Right? I could be a host of other things. You want to address homelessness? Think about $1 billion put into homelessness programs. What could be done with that? If we could send $135 billion to Ukraine, we can come up with the money for that, right? That's my viewpoint. Some of you may disagree with me on it. And again, in other countries, same argument, right? I know UK has given aid. Tons of countries have. Ask your politicians. Okay, I understand you're doing that. I can even understand why. Sure, we want to help the Ukrainians out. But why are you telling me that you can do that? You found the funding for that, but you're also telling me there's no funding to help men on whatever issue. It could be domestic violence, education, whatever, homelessness. This is what I'm talking about. This is the state of men and boys in 2023, right? The government, society don't view them as a priority. Ukraine's a priority. Now, I know some of you are going to go on the political side of that. I ain't going there right now. You should follow my radio show sometime, because then you'll hear some stuff. Black Weapon said, men need to learn how to express themselves. Yes, 100% agree with you. Look, guys, I'm going to roll back here for a second, if you don't mind. I'm going to be honest with you. I agree with him totally, right? Now, you're going to catch crap. There isn't a day goes by I don't get someone insulting me and calling me weak for sharing my opinion and talking about my emotions. I've talked about what I went through as a kid. I've talked about dealing with parental alienation. I've talked about the abuse I went through and all that. And inevitably, I get the who hurt you, you're weak, blah, blah, blah. And I get it from women and men. You know what? What takes strength is speaking up. Weak is not speaking up. Strength is speaking up, right? And I don't mean that to hurt anyone or insult them. You will find your own power in speaking up and sharing your story. It's when I work with guys individually, it's the number one thing I teach them is to say, whatever your horror story is, just talk about it. Talk about it with me. If you don't trust me, that's fine. A trusted friend, family member, whomever. Just talk about it. Therapists, right? I'm not a therapist. I don't claim to be one. I'm not giving mental health advice. I'm just simply saying from my own personal experience and as someone who is a peer counselor in a domestic violence group for men that ran one, it's the number one thing men need to learn to. I agree wholeheartedly with Black Weapon. Society has told us we don't matter, that our feelings and emotions need to be bottled up. I was taught that from a boy, and I would venture to say every man watching this and participating in this live right now was taught the same thing. I know there might be some exceptions, but society says men are not allowed to talk about their emotions, not allowed to cry, not allowed to have fear, any of that stuff, right? Essentially, men are disposable. They don't matter. And I get mocked all the time. I got mocked this morning. I had a woman just shred me on a YouTube video I did, calling me weak. Real men don't do that. That's on her, because I know it took me being strong to speak up. So if nothing else, if we want to change the state of men and boys now, It's that we need to support one another as men. The ladies that support men, we need you to support us. And I have friends that support me wholeheartedly, right? Friends I've met through social media. My best friend in the world happens to be a woman. I can say anything to her, and she will call me on my crap, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. But she also lets me vent sometimes, and that's all I need, right? So, yeah. United said he's from Vancouver. I've heard beautiful things about your town, city. Donald, North Carolina country boy. I'm a North Carolina city boy. Small city. Siggy, hi from Deutschland. Guten Tag, wie geht's, my friend? Josh, psychology for both genders to come together instead of separate, I think would go a long way. Do you mean, Josh, do you mean like therapy psychology or just in general? Because I do think there's something to be said about the issue of how psychology as a study or career views men. I've had some conversations with someone that I'm hoping to get on my podcast who thinks that, I'll just use the generic term, psychology or mental health providers don't know how to treat men anymore at all. It was an interesting conversation. It's pretty far out in left field, I'll grant. But everything she said, by the way, not he, she said, resonated with me. The numbers she was throwing out at me, somewhere around 75% current mental health providers are female. That number is going to escalate to about 90% in the very near future. Coming out of college, under 30, I think she said, there's virtually no men coming into the field. And that's an issue because a lot of men don't feel comfortable opening up to a woman. They may be the greatest psychotherapist in the world, but if the man's not going to open up, this is her talking, not me. I hope I can get her on the podcast. If I do, that would be an interesting conversation because I will tell you, having done therapy, well, male or woman, female didn't matter to me, didn't work. But I can honestly see some of her points because it's so ingrained to them. Because women are taught from a young age. Boys are taught not to cry. Women are taught, girls are taught, men shouldn't cry, and they're weak if they do. So if you learn that all growing up, there's no way it's not part of your psyche. See what I did there? Even if you're a psychotherapist or psychologist or whatever, So I get that. So good point. All right, Bernie, as long as women judges exist in family court, men will have rights. Oh, Bernie, we're going to disagree on this one. By the way, merch. Let me hold my cup. I can't do this right. There it is. Oh, the other way. There. If you want to go into my profile, I do have merch, and part of the proceeds go to supporting a domestic violence shelter. To address Bernie's question or comment, I hate to break it to you, my friend, but it doesn't matter whether they're women or men. In fact, I would argue the male judges are worse than the female. My experience, having observed hundreds of cases, I've gone into family court with guys and observed. The women, how do I put this without getting in trouble? They tend to see the BS coming from the mothers much better than the guys do, the men do. They do. That's not to say they're great, right? I think family court needs to be reformed, right? I don't like that we talk about it in terms of gender with judges. I don't agree with that. And if anything, I would say the women judges are fairer, very loosely, than the male judges are in general. Exceptions, of course. My experience, though, the men... I know of one case where it's a male judge and he's destroying the father because the male judge had an issue where his daughter was unalived by a man. Horrible situation. It's on my podcast a couple weeks ago. I don't want to get into details here because I will get banned if I bring it up. And that male judge is now holding against every father that walks into his courtroom what happened to his daughter, right? Instead of saying, well, that was one criminal. He now views all men that way. Um, United Compliant, using your daughter's room. I'm not sure what you mean on that. Can you? I know you're joking. I see that, but what do you mean? Because I like the jokes. RP John, hey buddy, how you doing? Jump on every week, my friend. Good to see you. Men lack incentives to perform anymore. They've been feminized, brainwashed. They are bad due to their gender. Okay, I agree with you. What's the fix? The bigger issue I would say with that is the lack of fatherlessness, or the issue of fatherlessness, right? You know what? There's some great single moms out there. I've said this a million times, so don't jump down my throat, but I will say it again now. Mothers cannot teach boys or girls what fathers can. Fathers cannot teach boys or girls what mothers can. That's the reality. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. The children benefit most from having both parents in their lives actively. The data supports this. This isn't even up for debate, okay? And no, 15% of the time with dad and 85 with the mom does not mean dad's actively involved. It needs to be closer to 50-50, right, after divorce. Dads teach differently. They teach different things. They are much more likely to hold a child accountable. Again, I'm shilling his book, and I don't mean to, but go read this book. Warren talks about that specific thing in this book, right? There is no way a mother or single mother can teach what a father can, any more than a single father can teach what a mother can. Now, I'm not talking about everything. I'm talking about specific things, right? And again, children learn from the different styles, if you will. We parent differently. Yes, I know there's exceptions. Stop, all right? I'm talking generalities here. And I think what you're talking about, John, with that is men have lost the incentive to perform because as men, we're driven by goals. We are. It might be our career. It might be when you're a kid, I want to play in the NBA or the NFL. Mine was NFL, right? It might be I want to learn how to play guitar and be in a rock band or whatever. We do better when we have a goal to work for. And we learn better by having a goal like that and then applying things to that goal. Perfect example. I suck at math. I'm good at addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. You give me algebra, I can get through. Geometry, Calculus, I failed it 4 times in college. Pre-calc, not even calculus, all right? I needed it for my degree. I needed one math course in pre-calculus. I took it 4 times. The 4th one, I had a wonderful professor. She was amazing. She knew my situation. She knew I needed this course to graduate. She gave me an hour of her time in her office, one-on-one with her every week. I had tutors. She spent extra time and attention on me in class. She did everything she possibly could. I still failed. She gave me the D so that I could get my degree, because otherwise I wouldn't have gotten it, because she saw the effort I put in. And that effort was there was because I had the incentive to do that, right? Because I could have just said, F it, I just won't get a degree. I agree with you, John. That mindset is lost. More kids today would go, I'm just going to drop out. I'm seeing that, right? And yes, to your other point, boys are told, and I talk about this in a lot of my videos lately, boys are told from the day they are born there is something wrong with them because they were born male. They're to blame for all of society's ills. They're bad people, all of that stuff. And it's society doing it. It's the government doing it. And then these boys grow up and they are wandering aimlessly. Nobody cares about me. Why should I care about anyone? If you want to talk about, in schools, it's the number one thing, in my opinion, that's causing it. It's how we are teaching boys from the day they're born that there's something wrong with them. We're, for lack of a better term, othering them from day one. big issue. And that's something, again, state of men and boys in 2023, which is the topic today. We need to change that. We need to change it now. We're 20, 30 years past when we should have changed it. How do we do that? Because I'm doing everything I can, and I feel like, salmon swimming upstream. I feel like I'm swimming against a tidal wave, to be honest with you. So looking for opinions on that. All right, let me scroll back because my thing just jumped way ahead. Guys, over on YouTube, feel free to jump in. All right. Falsely. Yeah, let's reach out to me. Best way to reach me, by the way, is through email. menneedtobeheard@gmail.com. I talk about it every week. Guys, I get literally hundreds of DMs every day, sometimes thousands across all my social media. I cannot possibly keep up. I don't have the funds to hire a personal assistant to do that for me, like the politicians have, or get an aide. I would love that. Again, I talked about this in the video. There are so many more things I could do, whether it's lobbying, getting in front of powerful groups to talk about it. I could get in front of a group. One of the things I was invited to, I get in front of a group of Republican legislators to talk about men and boys issues. They ain't going to pay for me to come there, right? That's how you make changes. Stuff like that. It takes time and money. I have a little thing. It's why, I apologize to anyone. I know you guys reach out to me. Usually what happens is sometime, not every day, but I'll jump on, say, TikTok, right? I'll watch a couple videos. I'll see what's going on. And I might read 2 or 3 of the DMs. That's about it. And I get hundreds a day. I wish I had the help to do it. All right. And I apologize for not being better, but there's only so many hours in the day. Greetings from Nigeria. Getting a lot of Nigerians lately. I love it. My buddies from Jamaica. I love Jamaica. Last week was Jamaica week. Growing up in Jamaica without a father around is tough. Yeah. That's the issue, right? And I talked about this a little bit for myself is, again, I'm referring back to videos I've done in the last few days. I grew up with my mother alienating me from my father. And it was planned, and she's evil. Okay, I've talked about it before. My father did everything he could. He honestly did. And you got to remember, this was the 60s and 70s. They were even more anti-father back then than they are now. My visitation schedule with my father was 12 to 6 Saturdays. That was it. Not the normal every other weekend and pizza date during the week that most men get now, which is not enough, not even near enough. But my father was given 6 hours a week. And my mother was standing out front. If I showed up, my father dropped me off at 6:01, God help him. God help me. She'd take it out on me, right? If he was there at 11:55, she used to make me stand in the house with watching her watch till it said 12 o'clock. That's how she was. And she would find any excuse for me not to go. This is what I grew up with. My dad did his best. And I talked about this in a recent video I did. Ultimately, I ended up going away from my mother and living with my father. And we tried to rebuild that relationship. My parents split when I was about 9 months old. Okay. I don't have a memory of my mother and father together because obviously I was too young. It fractured that relationship between my dad and me. And I don't mean that to fault him in any way. When I was living with him, we would have talks and all that, but there was always, and I talked about this in the video, there was always that disconnect there. And it kind of traveled over to my dad's family, that side of the family. I have very little contact with anyone on that side of my family. Not that they have not reached out to me, not that they've tried, and I take the blame for it, right? It's just, they aren't family to me. They're strangers. They are people I know I'm related to, but I don't have a connection with them, right? The cousins on my mother's side, very close with. The ones on my dad's side, barely know them. And their kids, I don't know them at all. Stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about. When you don't have a dad around, that's where dads are important. Dads' families are important because kids need that bond, and they need that bond not just with dad, but with his extended family, and all of them help raise the children. So I know I pontificated. Hello from Colorado Springs. Joe, I think you're my first ever from Colorado Springs. Welcome, my friend. Again, guys, let me know what you think we should be talking about as far as what do you see as the issues for men and boys? What are the big ones that if you were to say to me, Dan, I'm going to give you $1 million, I wish. I want you to go do this. Go address this issue. What would that issue be? What would be the one issue you'd want me to address? Because I want to hear what you guys think. I've told you what my three are. Educational issues. Number one, family court, 1A. Again, there's so many, right? But I want to know what you guys think. All right. So let me jump it again. I jumped way. Sorry, TikTok jumped way ahead. YouTubers, I'm watching. I haven't seen anybody yet, so feel free to comment because I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Bernie again on selective service. I already addressed it, my friend. Mark, I'm not my father's fault. Why he wasn't around, it was my mom. Same for me, right? I just kind of relayed that. Henry, should a man have to pay child support if he wants an abortion, but she doesn't? He wants it. She does. So he does not want to be a parent. She does. Oh boy. I'm going to say, look. Yes, I'm going to say. Now, do I think men should have a say in it? Yes, I do. Right? This is an ugly topic. I don't want to go through iron because I'll get banned. That's why I'm ducking right now. Okay, to be honest with you, I don't think men should be forced to be parents. I think men should have a choice. That said, I also don't think children should be abandoned. I'm kind of, I'm playing both sides of the fence. I know that. I would rather that we addressed it from the sense of right now, something that I do, educating the men, educating the younger men, the boys, the realities. This is what I do, right? I don't want to get to that point. I want boys, I want to sit down with I'm picking 15, 16-year-old boy, much like I did with my kids, and say, sit down, son, we're going to have a talk. Here's the realities. I was your age once. I know what you want. I know what you're thinking. Okay? Here's the thing you need to know. That 10 minutes, 15, whatever number you want to put on it, of fun that you had could lead to you paying 18, 21, 22, or 26 years of child support. Whatever state you're in, whatever the percentage is, 20% of your income for the next 18, 21, 26 years. You're going to hand to that woman, whether you're married to her or not, for that 10 minutes of fun. That's the price you're going to pay. So if you're making, let's use easy numbers, $100,000, and you have one kid and you're paying child support, that's $20,000 a year for 18 years. That's $360,000. Is that 10 minutes of fun worth $360,000 to you? Really? Is it? Protect yourself. You get what I'm doing. That's where we don't do that. We tell boys, you got to worry about STDs and all that. Yeah, I get that. Absolutely, we should have that conversation. But we need to hit them right between the frickin' eyes with it. Dude, I did this with my sons. Dude, do you want to pay $360,000 to have a little fun with her? Because that's the risk you're taking. And oh, by the way, you miss payment, you're going to end up in jail. That's what the conversation needs to be. And dads have to have that conversation. Moms can have that conversation. It does not resonate with boys anywhere near as much as when dads have it. Sorry, ladies, I'm not insulting you in any way. That's the reality. It'll mean much more to a boy coming from his dad. That's you just have to accept that. You may not like me saying that, but that's the truth. That's the conversation we need to be having. That's what I'm talking about to change things. Getting on my soapbox now, right? Bernie, no fault divorce has destroyed marriage in the USA. No, it's destroyed it across the world, my friend. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but Darren said if the woman has a 4-year degree, divorce percentage is way higher. It's about 90%, give or take, of filings, not 90% of marriages. Rush, curious of the statistics around religion. Sorry, I need a quick drink. I'm going to be honest with you. I have not looked into the breakdown on religions. I have had conversations years ago. One I can kind of faintly recall, and don't hold me to any of these numbers, but I know that Judaism tends to stay together more than, this was 20 whatever years ago. Judaism stayed married more than Catholics. Again, I don't remember numbers or anything. I'm trying to pull it out of the recesses of my brain, but there is something to do that. I'll be honest with you. There may be studies out there. I just haven't read them. That would be a good thing to look into. That's a good point. Yasmin saying no, you shouldn't have to pay support. Again, I get that. I'm not disagreeing. I want to have the situation dealt with before it gets to that point, I guess is where I'm going with it. That's where we need to start thinking as a society, as men. So even if you don't have kids, there are so many boys growing up out there with no men in their lives. Whether you do Big Brother or the neighborhood kid down the street. When my kids were growing up, there were boys down the street. They would hang out with my sons, and I would have conversations with them because their dads weren't around for whatever reason. Usually it was because mom didn't let them. Teach them, talk to them, be that role model for them that we kind of talked about earlier, that children need men in their lives. They absolutely do. I'm going to shill this book all day long. Go read this book. All right. Go read this one. I got 2 of them. Go read that one. All right. By Waller Farrell. Go read this one. Christina Hoff Sommers, The War Against Boys. All right. Go read those books and then come back to me and tell me, oh, we got to focus on just girls' issues. You kidding me? All right. Enough said on that. Sorry, I'm getting fired up. Mark, most women use marriage as a business. They come in for your life just for the retirement benefits. I know there's a big push all of a sudden to talk about retirement benefits. And yeah, guys, there's another conversation. Young men, sit down. Dad's going to talk now. So a lot of people will talk about, well, divorce, child support. That's the one that guys will jump on. Fair point. How about half your retirement too? Depending on your state laws, let's say you're married 10 years. She's entitled to half your Social Security and half your pension if you have one. Doesn't mean she's going to get it. Depends on the court, right? And how you do it. Normally, in my divorces, I was adamant and I negotiated that neither one of us could touch the other's retirement or Social Security. So I don't have to worry about that. And I'm there, okay? But more often than not, you lose a good portion of your retirement benefits. So I heard earlier today the average retirement or Social Security check is $1,400. That's tough enough to live on today. Think about that. You gotta, if that's all you have coming in, housing, food, all that stuff. Now picture half of it going to her. Now you got $700 to live on. You're gonna be working the rest of your life. These are the conversations that need to be had. These are what men and boys need to know in 2023. All right. Rush, I wonder if faith-based marriages are more successful. I think, I'm going to generalize, and this is an opinion. I have no strong facts. I don't think they're much better or worse. I think that majority of marriages are faith-based, so to speak. It's less and less. I think eventually it'll be just marrying for convenience. But go back to the 70s and 80s. Though the majority of people got married in a church, and they got divorces. So I don't know that it's any better. I'm skipping over some of these things. Get jacked up. Hey, buddy, how are you? Another one of my regulars. Thank you for joining again. Canada's broke. We have immigrants sleeping in tent cities in Toronto. It's out of control. I had a conversation with somebody in the UK. In fact, we were talking about just that. The UK is getting flooded too, because he's like, everybody worries about America because America's getting flooded too, but it's happening in the UK and Europe as much. We don't hear about that here in the States so much. In fact, it's very rare I've ever heard of the issue in the UK or Europe in general. Every once in a while you'll hear something, but it's not like it is talked about like you hear in the States. Yeah, it's a tough situation. Sean, my boss saw me getting abused at home and no help from the system at a young age. This broke them. Yeah, again, exactly, right? This is where, and to your point, having been there, this is where as a dad you feel helpless, right? You're like, I know my boys are seeing this. They're going to grow up thinking this is normal, because I did. And I don't know the solution that would have worked for me. I'm using my personal experience with that. You know, my dad, as I said, I had 6 hours a week with him. And again, there were times I didn't see him for months because my mother would schedule things. That's why when people tell me there's no such thing as parental alienation, bullshit. All right, so I just used a bad word. I'm gonna get in trouble now. Trust me, it exists, right? I lived it. So yeah, when you're dealing with something like that, they're gonna grow up seeing that. Now imagine, as a boy, picture yourself as an 8-year-old boy. You see your dad getting abused by your mom or another woman or whatever. And you're hearing day after day, you're to blame for all society's ills. The patriarchy is all your fault. Blah, 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 blah. Think about that mindset as you're growing up at 8 years old, 9, 10, 12. What do you think is going to happen when you're 16, 17? You're going to feel of absolutely no use or value to the world. You might as well not exist. Get where I'm going? Because I can't go too much further without getting in trouble. So no one's going to care if I'm not here. And oh, by the way, I might take a few with me. You think that's not the scenario? Go look at the statistics on the people who do that stuff. Almost invariably, they come from single parent homes. And dad's been out. Rail Darko, hi there. It's Free World, spit it up 8 week. That sounds like a song lyric. I don't. Sorry. Get jacked up. My ex falsified a threat. All right, I got to be careful with what I say again. Police did nothing. Again, that's what I was told when I was abused. When I was laid out unconscious. Well, you need to leave, sir. They were going to arrest me. I've talked about this before. I don't want to go too deep into it now. Again, state of men and boys right now. That was 27 years ago. Is it any better now? I'd argue no, it's not. If the police respond now, they're still being trained under the Duluth model. They're going to kick the guy out, tell him to go find a place to stay. They're not going to kick mom out. Again, exceptions. It's better than it was back then. They're not going to do anything. Why aren't we not valuing men and boys as a society? This is exactly my point today, right? The state of men and boys right now is that they are disposable. They offer nothing. So we'll just use them for whatever and get rid of them. Warren Farrell, in the books I've kind of showed, talks about men have been viewed throughout history as disposable. They're trained from the day they grow up to make themselves as a sacrifice for society. I'm trying to be polite here, all right? So that if a war comes out, they will go and give their lives for society to survive. Right? World War II, 500,000 men died to preserve freedom in the U.S. I know there's many of you from other countries, same type things, right? That's what men are taught to do. I know the big one on TikTok and Instagram lately has been the Titanic scenario. Women and children first in the Titanic. Back 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, the priority actually, if you wanted the species to survive, did need to be women, right? Because one man could impregnate 100 women, right? 100 or one woman can only have one baby. So if it's 100 men and one woman, there's one baby. One man, 100 women, there can be 100 babies, right? You get my drift with it. We got how many? 8, 9 billion people on the planet? We ain't going away, right? So women and children first, or men need to be sacrificed, that's got to go. But we're still there. There's been no movement on that. I talk about this often. Feminism, good feminism, drove a lot of positivity, things that needed to happen to bring around equality for girls in education and so on and so forth. Wholeheartedly support that. What's changed for boys in the last 100 years? Women got the right to vote. They, rightfully so. Women got all these things, equality in the workplace, all that stuff. Is there things that need to be done still? Sure, we'll grant that. Name me one thing that's been done to help boys. Name me one change that's been made by society, government, whatever, for the benefit of men. The argument is, well, we got to tear everything down for men because of the patriarchy. Where's the benefit to society by telling a 3-year-old boy that he's responsible for the patriarchy, as someone did online? 3-year-old boy. A friend of mine that I had a chat with this week was telling me about a story about a 5-year-old boy who is now on an offender registry. 5 years old. That boy is destroyed. He's on a you-know-what offender registry at 5. What 5-year-old is committing a crime like that? And I know what he did, and it was wrong. There was nothing you-know-what about it, okay? Did he need to be talked to? Sure. But at 5 years old, boys and girls are curious about the other's bodies. You show me yours, I'll show you mine. I did it at 5 years old with girls in my neighborhood, all right? We all did it. It's natural. But now we've criminalized a 5-year-old and destroyed his life. It's going to be on his record all through school. Now, hopefully, it'll be sealed as an adult. Who knows? But he's going to go into high school with that. You think that's not in his school records? I got news for you, okay? Where's the benefit to society doing that? As opposed to sitting the kid down and going, hey, Johnny, I get it. I understand why you were doing it. Blah, blah, blah. It's not the right thing to do. This is where dad could help out, right? Look, son, I understand what you're doing. I understand you have curiosity. I will answer whatever questions you have. Help the kid out. Let's have a talk. Nope. Slap the kid on an offender. Insanity to me. Where is the benefit to society doing that to men and boys, I should say? Boy, this TikTok's, you guys are hammering on it, and it's just jumping ahead on me, so I got to scroll back again. Again, guys, let me know where you're from if you're a first-timer. I'd like to know where people are from. It kind of is cool. I got about another 20 minutes or so. Again, for those that don't know who I am, my name is Dan. I am Men Need to Be Heard. My channel is about bringing awareness to the issues men and boys face, which is the primary focus of this live right now, is where we're at in 2023, where boys are lagging behind in school, men are falling behind in their careers. The jobs that are going away are the jobs that men hold, right? Everybody talks about getting girls into STEM. Nobody talks about getting boys into HEAL, health, education, all right, administration, all right? Nobody talks about that. Boys are in trouble. Men are in trouble. Nobody cares. And there's no talk about it. So anyway. I don't know that boys out there were told not to be weak. I am more liberal. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but no. Carol from the UK. Love from the UK. Love you too. By the way, Edifree, thank you for the rose. Mark, thank you for the rose. I know I've kind of been slacking off on them. I do appreciate the gifts, guys. I do. Genuinely appreciate them. Every little bit helps me. Help you. All right, here we go. I want to catch up a little bit. A student from Ethiopia. I got to say, I love, in the last month or so, I don't know if it's TikTok doing it or what, but I'm hearing from tons of people in Africa. I'm seeing lots of people follow me from Africa. I think that's awesome. I love it. Thank you all. I do. I appreciate it. Ace, I love your page. Thank you. Hello, mate from Australia. User, whatever the string of numbers is. Thank you. Sierra Leone, West Africa. TikTok must be pushing me in Africa, and I don't know why, but thank you. I appreciate it. I love having you guys on. Corruption, hypocrisy, and family court. So Tiger's saying, I'm guessing that's your number one. I would agree with you there, my friend. It's one of the big ones, right? Because it ties in directly with fatherlessness. You cannot have an argument with me about that there's any benefit to removing a father from a child's life. I'm not talking about somebody who's abusive, all right, in general. There's no benefit to saying, yeah, we're going to give dad 15% of the time. There isn't. And look at the world today and tell me how that is not affected by fatherlessness. And don't tell me it's the dads don't want to be involved, because they're all fighting in family court to be involved. The fact they even have to fight is wrong. And anyone who forces a father to fight and says, I don't understand why he's not fighting, you're the problem, not him. You shouldn't have to fight. Enough said. Simon says, women who emasculate men in front of their children. Yes, that's a very good point. And online, I might add, right? Yeah, you see all these videos of just slamming men. I've got a couple that I have in the can I haven't posted yet of women literally laughing at men's issues like it's a joke. And to them it is. Why? How does that benefit you as a woman? To mock men's mental health issues? Seriously, I'm asking. I'm not trying to put you down. Could a woman explain that to me? How does mocking men for their unaliving rate and finding it funny, why do you think that's good? Because I don't get it. Yet I see every single day a video along those lines. There isn't a day that goes by I don't see something along those lines. Where's your benefit to you? How does teaching boys that they're not worthy, that they're to blame for all of society's ills, how does that benefit women? How does it benefit girls? Because I ask these questions. I have yet to get an answer, by the way. Just saying. Trippy, young men. Hey, Trippy. Young men need to protect themselves. Giving me an opportunity here. She kind of set this up for me, and no, she didn't know I was going to do this. I have a video that's going to be coming up. It'll be, it won't be a podcast, but I'm going to put it up over on YouTube, okay? For those of you on TikTok. And I'm going to talk about 3 to 4 things that men need to do right now to protect themselves from false allegations and other issues. That video will be coming up shortly. And I have my friend David Pizarro, who's a family court attorney, who's going to join me for it. And we're going to hit you with some stuff that is going to blow your mind. I reached out to David because I wanted to get a legal perspective on what I was proposing. Admittedly, some of it was tongue-in-cheek because it's absurd that we are at this point. And his response to me was, everything you say is what men should be doing legally. And I went, what? We had a whole, him and I are really good buddies. I said, you're kidding me, right? He goes, I mean this tongue. He goes, no, they need to be doing that. So he's going to join me on this video. It'll probably come out sometime next week. It's not going to be a podcast. It's going to be a separate video. But we're going to talk about things men need to be doing in the workplace, home, society, walking the streets. Things that are going to blow your mind, guys. And you're going to sit there and go, that is absurd. It's ludicrous. Not when you get a false allegation placed against you, it ain't. You'll have evidence to protect yourselves. Stay tuned. Trippy, thank you for giving me the opportunity to promo that, even though I know you have no idea what's coming. Hey, Logical, where is her 360K? Logical, by the way, we have a mutual friend. I know you know who I'm talking about. I was hoping she'd be on today. We were chatting about you, buddy. I hope your ears weren't ringing yesterday. But yeah, we need to talk, buddy, because I think you know who I'm talking about. I know you know who. Anyway, Simon says it's different over here in Australia. You miss a payment, you get a slap on the knuckles. Okay, I've not. I've actually heard the opposite. So interesting take. Um, the argument might be that the moms view it as a slap on the knuckles because even in the States, dad will normally get a couple chances to catch up on his support before he gets slammed. So maybe that's what you're referring to, but eventually he's done. Jana, what can you do with false allegations? Well, go check my videos out, my friend. I did at least probably a dozen videos on, and I was playing off the Russell Brand situation. And I've gotten slammed. You're a defender of Russell Brand. You're blah, blah. No, I'm not. Right? On an individual level, I don't think much of Russell Brand. His comedy does nothing for me. As a person, he's just, But I am unequivocal in my support for presumption of innocence for anyone, male, female, any color, skin color, anything. If we don't have a presumption of innocence, society's done. It's over with. And they're using the Russell Brand situation to remove that for men. It's gone. When you have the UK government sending letters out to his employers, because he makes his money on the YouTubes and various other social medias, right? They sent letters out saying, demonetize him, take his ability to make money away from him. He hasn't been charged yet. Allegations made? Yes. Should those allegations be investigated? Yes. Should he lose his ability to make money while that's all being done? It could take a couple of years before that's litigated out. Because they have to do the investigation. And I question again, how can this investigation be fair when the people doing it are the ones sending the letters out telling his employers to take his money away from him? This could play out over 2-3 years. He's not allowed to make money in that time. What if he's innocent? Then what? He's not going to get that money back. YouTube's going to pocket all that money. I'm waiting for YouTube to cut me off because I know it's coming. You get what I mean? So what can you do with false allegations on an individual level? You need to get a damn good attorney. You can't go this alone. I know guys will say go pro se. If it's that kind of an allegation like a Russell Brand, you get an attorney, you get the best one you can possibly afford. And yeah, you may have to go bankrupt to do it. It's either that or prison, my friend, because the odds are stacked against you. If you are in a corporation and get a false allegation, I'd get an attorney now. I would. I've investigated false allegations. Sorry, the lights are killing my eyes right now. I've investigated them. I was in IT for a number of years. I worked directly with HR on allegations of harassment and you know what. All right. I did forensic analysis on computers, that kind of stuff. To be honest, I think most HR departments do try and be fair about it. They're jilted, their minds are jilted, but I do think they try and be fair about it. I would get an attorney. If you're in a workplace and you get an allegation placed against you, I would be calling an attorney at this point. We have to as men. Jacked up. Women get angrier than men and then weaponize kids more than ever. Yeah, they do. I agree with you. Logical thinker, defund VEWA. Oh, my friend. Hold on. You want this mug, this cup, you want this coffee cup? They're available. Part of it goes to supporting a domestic violence shelter. Go to the link tree in my bio, scroll down, you'll see merch. You'll have them in a couple of days. VEWA, for those that don't know, is Violence Against Women Act. Was put in place in 94, I believe it was, mid-90s. The author of the bill is the President of the United States right now, Joe Biden. It's a crap bill. It was a crap bill from day one. It was unconstitutional from day one because the U.S. government cannot put a program in place that specifically excludes men, which the original VEWA did. They actually lost in court. So then they threw in little provisions. They gender neutraled it, okay? VEWA is why we're at where we're at in 2023. It gave the shelters money to lobby politicians. I could do 3 hours on this, and I have. I've done workshops on this, okay? I'm going to leave it at that. And I think maybe I should do a video on that or a podcast because VEWA did more damage to boys and men than I think you'll ever know if you don't hear what I have to say. And I did a ton of research on this. As I said, I did a couple 3-hour workshops on this. VEWA is criminal because it specifically excludes men, or originally did, from getting help. It was written right in. This money's for women's shelters only. And they use that and still do. All right. I'm just kind of catching up here because I'm something like 38 messages behind. Sorry, guys. Well, here's one. Miller Music. Common law is much better, though even their men's rights have been trampled on. Common law where, Miller Music? U.S. common law? Not sure what you're saying. Logical. Elites are taking home ownership away from the population. Not really the point of this channel. Something I have talked about on my radio show quite a bit, actually. I agree with you, by the way. The middle class has been destroyed. You know, I talk about my house. I have a small, wonderful little house. Love my house. I bought it in 2017 when I moved to North Carolina. It is now worth more than double what I paid for it. Nothing's changed on the house. I have made some improvements, but none of them are the reason for the value. Think about that. So my neighbor next door sold her house. Almost identical houses. The layout inside's a little different. Same size, everything. More than double what I paid for my house. Think about that from a mortgage perspective. Okay? So my mortgage, not counting taxes, insurance, and all that, is about $500 a month. The person next to me that bought that house mortgage is almost 2.5 times that. Because interest rates went up too. So it wasn't just principal, but interest rates. It's actually probably closer to 3 times what I pay for the same house. No way we can sustain that. No way. And in my area, which is southeastern North Carolina, I have friends that are realtors, and they say they don't even put the houses on the market. They have lists of people that are looking to buy, come from up north. So if a house goes up for sale, they call the list. One girl said, I just call the list. First one that says they want it gets it. They don't even see the houses. That's where we're at. And again, they're bidding up the prices. You're right. I agree with you. Sad. Not good either for society in the long term. All right. Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky now checking parentage before child support. So again, I'm a little behind on some of my videos because I went off on the Russell Brand thing for over a week. So I have videos in the can I haven't released yet, but the paternity one is one I'm going to be kind of talking a little bit about. Every state needs to put that in place. It's a game changer, what Tennessee did, what Texas is doing. Kentucky, Alabama, yep, all the states. There's another one that we didn't mention there. I've seen a movement of women saying, male babies. Yep. And again, how do we get to that point as a society where we're deliberately trying to get rid of one gender? Imagine if the videos were put out, we're going to get rid of female babies. What would happen? People would go bonkers. No one bats an eye about the male ones. Sad. It's where we are for men and boys. Men are considered disposable now. They show people literally believe. By the way, men and women literally believe that men have no value to society anymore. Ask the Ukrainians if their men have a value now. Just saying. Seeing some different countries. Australia again. Tennessee, Ontario. Yeah, let me know where you're from. I got about 10 minutes, guys. We've been all over the place. Guys, I keep asking, and I'm going to ask again. Let me know what you think the biggest problem was, because you're also going to help me to kind of where I want to put my material, all right? And again, thank you, Abdul Salam, for your gifts. The Heart Me the Rose, Mark, Addie, appreciate them. I do. Any support, I do appreciate. Kinisumo, what's your take on the alpha male mantra? Look, here's my viewpoint. There are alpha males, there are beta males. That's a reality, okay? Let's just accept that. Both alphas and betas have a benefit to society. One of my ex-heroes, he's not a hero anymore, was Bill Gates. Bill Gates is a beta male, okay? What he did for PCs, ultimately the internet and all that, is fantastic. I don't like when we put down beta males. I don't. It's just to me, the difference is this. Alpha males are more proactive than beta males. So they'll take more risks. And with more risk comes more glory. They're the captains of the football team. They're the ones that women gravitate to, right? This just popped in my brain, all right? I played football for years at a lot of levels. I was a lineman, right? Defense, I played nose tackle. Offense, I generally played left tackle, sometimes right tackle. Nobody cared about us as the offensive line. Nobody gave two craps about us. But the pretty boys, as we called them, they got all the glory. They're the ones that got the jackets. They're the ones that got the girls and all that. And I say this. So to your alpha beta thing, right? If the quarterback, running backs, and receivers are the alphas and the offensive line is the betas, you think that quarterback can do anything without his betas? I'll tell a story. This was, I was college, I think it was. We had this quarterback who was so full of himself, came on the team. He thought his you-know-what didn't stink. We were getting pissed. He was talking down to us all the time on the line. This was in practice. So, the lines talk to each other. So we set it up. The entire offensive line set it up. We were gonna get the quarterback. So we let the defensive line know, we ain't blocking you. We're gonna step aside. Take them out. And they did. 5 of them just leveled the guy. And I mean leveled him. The coach was pissed. Oh my God, what's going on? Because for those of you that don't play football, when you're practicing, the quarterbacks wear a different colored jersey. Usually it's red. Sometimes it's different colors. I've seen yellow. And you're not supposed to hit them. But we'd had it. And the defensive line was supporting us. Oh, they hit him so hard. He straightened his ass up real fast. So I hope that answers your question. I kind of went a long way around it, but yeah. That said, I do think that in general, like I said, there are differences, and we should celebrate those differences, not put one or the other down. Because the geeks put down the jocks as dumb. No, they're not. The jocks put down the geeks as weak. No, they're not. We just have different abilities. I know. I'm so kumbaya with that shit, but come on. Oh, I swore again. Get jacked up. Listen to your gut. Once you feel the first red flag, get out now. It's not getting any better. Double thumbs up, my friend. Yes, sir. Women mocking men about the Taylor Swift and football player, Travis Kelce, saying she made him popular. In her dreams, she did. So, look, I haven't commented on this whole thing. I'll be honest with you. I think Taylor Swift is an attractive woman. I will give you that. Don't think much of her singing or her musical ability, but props to her for what she's done. She's a billionaire, I believe, at this point. When I saw that whole thing, I didn't watch that game. I watched Red Zone, but they were kept cutting to it over and over again. I'm like, the game was a dog game anyway. And I'm like, think about, again, this kind of talks about what we're talking about, where men and boys are, where they glorify Taylor Swift and he is getting mocked for being her, I guess, boyfriend. I don't even know what it is. He was popular before she even existed, just not in the circle she's in. What is that? The Swifties? Is that her followers? May not have known because they don't follow football. It's, again, that shows you where we are in society. All right, guys, I only got about 3 more minutes. Why do you think people don't like men? Black Rose. Well, you tell me. I'll tell you why. Because they've been taught to not like men. They've been taught from the day they were born, both men and women, that men are to blame for everything. 3-year-old boys are guilty of the patriarchy. They perpetuate it. 5-year-old boys should be put on you-know-what registries. Insane. All right, guys, I'm going to scroll through quick because I am running out of time. Demi Delanuit. I hope I say your name right. I do see you following me, and I appreciate it. For those that don't know, real quick, I'm just kind of catching up on, I'm way behind in messages. I apologize if I didn't get to everyone's messages and where you're from. I'm doing what I can, because I like to talk, if you can't tell. For those of you that gave gifts, thank you. I appreciate them. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, and I talked about this in my videos the other day. We need help, right? And when I say we, I don't mean just me. If you see a creator on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you're following them on social media, and you can throw them a few bucks. If you like what they're saying, if you think they're resonating and fighting for you, throw them a few bucks. If there is a men's group out there, a father's group, a veterans group, Veteran Fathers down in Atlanta, it's phenomenal. I'm part of that organization on the periphery, joining even more. Support them, because I'll tell you right now, we get no support, all right? I talked about it in my video. I make nothing from my online presence. All right, I've been demonetized on Instagram and Facebook. That ain't ever coming back. Not that I made pennies on there, okay? Never going to see a cent from that again. I'm not monetized on YouTube. I am not monetized on Twitter. I am monetized on TikTok. The amount of money I've made in September might buy me a Big Mac and a large fries, okay? I spend on average $200 to $300 a month to give you the stuff that I do. So again, I'm not shilling for myself particularly here, but I'm just telling you this so you know. If you want people like me to keep fighting for you, to speak out, to be able to fly somewhere and talk to politicians and say, damn it, wake up, men and boys need help. You got to support us, all right? And again, I'm not trying to shill for myself particularly, all right? That's the reality. I was in fathers' rights groups. I was in men's groups. I've talked about this many times before, shared parenting. We would have had it in New York in 2005 or 6 if we could have raised $10,000 to put a billboard up. We didn't get $80 in support. There, at the time, were about 5.5, 6 million men in New York. We asked for $1 one time. We would have had shared parenting in New York. Think about this. Can you spare $1? Just $1. I'm not even talking $1 a month. Not even $1, just $1 one time. Find a fathers group that you believe is going to fight for you in your state. Find a national level group, right? The Global Initiative for Men and Boys. It's on my podcast last Sunday. Go check that out with Sean. Talk to Bill Corbett and Veteran Fathers. Go support him. You want to support me? That's fine. Support the other creators that speak out on behalf of men and the issues for men and boys. It allows us to do more for you, okay? Again, I know I'm shamelessly, but you get my drift. Demi wanted to know, why am I not monetized on YouTube? Because, one, you have to hit certain criteria. I have more than enough subscribers. I don't have the watch hours. So you can help me on that by going and watching the podcast. You know, there's 30 episodes up now. But the reality is, even when I get that, I know damn well, because I've talked with other creators in this space, YouTube will not approve the monetization. I pretty much guarantee you that. Again, I'm going to wrap it up on that because I do have to go. Guys, thank you for watching. As I said, support, support, support. The other way you can support, and it doesn't cost you a dime, and the amount of time it would take you is minimal. If you see a video from a creator that's speaking out on men and boys issues and you like it, you agree with it, hit the like button, right? Whether you're on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Hit that little heart. Help them out. Help us overcome the algorithm. Share the content, repost it, that kind of stuff. Comment on it. You get the drift. You all know what I'm talking about, right? The algorithm holds us back. I am definitely being throttled across the board at this point, all right? And I know it. You can help me spread the word by doing that. And don't do it just for me. All the other creators out there, help us out. You know, I ain't going to put a bikini on and strut around to get 1 million followers. That ain't happening. And you know what I mean, right? You got to help us out. We're trying to help you, but we need your help. That's where I'm going to leave it, guys. Again, truly appreciate you listening to me babble on. Fresh podcast comes out this Sunday at 11. It's Sean Parker. We're talking false allegations. We recorded this before the Russell Brand thing, so I recorded about a month ago. It'll be interesting to see. I'm going to have him back on now that happened, because he is with False Allegations Watch. He's watching the media and he's commenting on it. He's on Twitter. Last week's podcast was with Sean Coleman, Global Initiative for Boys and Men, and talking about very specific issues that we're trying to get the politicians to pay attention to and donate some money to help us out, right? Go watch those podcasts. They will help you out. It'll give you a better understanding. All right, on that note, one final thing. I'm live here on both YouTube. It's YouTube on this screen, TikTok on this one, from 4 to 5:30 every Wednesday Eastern U.S. Different topics every week, and I can talk about whatever you guys want. Come join me. Thank you for those that give gifts. I'll see you next week.